Alrighty, so to start here, we're going to, for each one, find the domain restrictions. So remember that means that we're going to set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. And then you'll solve the equation, so find x. And all of these we'll have to use the LCD method for. So for number 1 here, to find the domain restrictions, we're going to take the denominator, set it equal to 0, solve this equation by subtracting 1 from both sides, and we get x equals -1. So my domain restriction is that x cannot be -1 because that will make the denominator equal to 0. Then, to continue, we need to find the LCD because that's how we're going to solve these equations. And here the only denominator is x plus 1, so that is the LCD. So then if you remember, we're going to multiply all 3 parts by that LCD. Cancel out our denominators. The x plus 1 in the middle does not cancel because there is no denominator, and then write down what's left. So here we'll have 8x, and we have an equal sign, then we'll have 4 times x plus 1 left, and then over here we'll just have 8 left. Now we can go ahead and distribute and solve the equation. We'll combine like terms over here on this side first. Then I'll move the 4x over. Sorry. Divide by 4, and we get x equals -1. Now we need to make sure that the solution does not conflict with our domain restriction. But because our domain restriction says x cannot be -1, then this cannot be a solution. So since there are no other solutions, then there is no solution to this one. All right, so for number 2, we'll start by finding the domain restriction. We'll take the denominator, set it equal to 0, add 2 to both sides, and we get x equals 2. So our domain restriction is that x cannot be 2. So now we'll go ahead and find our LCD. X minus 2 is the only denominator, so that will just be the LCD. And then we'll multiply all 3 parts by x minus 2. Cancel out our denominators. And on the end here, nothing cancels. And then write down what's left. So here we'll have a 2, then an equal sign, and then we'll just have an x left, and then minus 2 times x minus 2. Go ahead and distribute. Make sure to take your negative with the 2. So it'll be -2x, and then -2 times -2 will be +4. Combine like terms over here. Subtract 4 from both sides. And then lastly, divide by -1, because there's a little invisible 1 there. So we'll get x equals 2. However, we need to check our domain restrictions, and our domain restriction says that x cannot be equal to 2, so this is not a solution. Since there's no other solutions, then this one would have no solution. All right, for number 3. Before we do anything, we can factor this denominator here. So we need to pull out the GCF. They both have a 2 in common. That will leave us with x minus 1, because if we divide this by 2, we just have an x. Divide -2 by 2, and we have -1. So we'll cross this off, and that is now our new denominator. So we'll start by looking at our domain restrictions. For that, we'll set x minus 1 equal to 0. Add 1 to both sides, and we get x equals 1. And then you might think, well, should we set 2 equal to 0? But can 2 equal 0 ever? No, that's not possible, so we don't have to worry about that. We can just ignore that. So our only domain restriction is that x cannot be 1. Now to find our LCD, we will take what the denominators have in common. So these two have an x minus 1 in common. And these two have a 2 in common. So our LCD is x minus 1 times 2. So we'll now multiply everything by x minus 1 times 2. Go through and cancel out our denominators. So here the 2 will cancel and the x minus 1 will cancel. Here only the 2 will cancel, and here only the x minus 1 will cancel. So the first fraction will just be a 3, then we'll have our plus sign, and then the second fraction will be 1 times x minus 1, and then the third fraction will be 2 times 2. So we can go ahead and distribute here. Multiply 2 times 2 is 4. Combine like terms over on this side, and we get 2 plus x is equal to 4. Because these are like terms, 3 and negative 1 combined together to get 2. And then we'll subtract 2 from both sides, and we get x equals 2. Now we check to make sure that doesn't conflict with our domain restriction. Our domain restriction says x cannot be 1, so x can be equal to 2. So this is going to be our solution here. All right, for number 4, we'll start with the domain restriction. But we notice right away that the middle here has to be factored. There's a GCF, 2x and 6 both have a GCF. They're both divisible by 2. So we need to factor that first, pull out the 2, and we're left with 2 times x plus 3. So that denominator has become 2 times x plus 3. So we need to take our denominators and set them equal to 0. So we'll have x plus 3 equal to 0 will give us x cannot be negative 3. If we subtract 3 from both sides. X minus 2 equal to 0, add 2 to both sides, and we'll get x cannot be equal to 2. And then you might think we need to set 2 equal to 0, but that's not possible. So we don't need to worry about that too. And then for our LCD here, we've got an x plus 3 in common with these two. That needs to be a part of our LCD. We've got a 2 here by itself, so that needs to be a part of our LCD. And then we also have an x minus 2. So that also needs to be in my LCD here. So let's actually move this over a little bit. Or if you want to write it as 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 2, you can change the order. So that's our LCD. So we got to multiply everything by that. So first fraction here, we'll multiply it by 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 2. Here, 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 2. Here, 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 2. And then we'll go in and cancel out our denominators. So here the x plus 3 will cancel. Here the 2 will cancel and the x plus 3 will cancel, and here the x minus 2 will cancel. So then we'll see what we have left. For this first fraction, we'll have 2 times 3 times x minus 2 all left. For this one here, we'll have 5 and x minus 2, 5 times 2 x minus 2. And then here we'll have 1 times 2 times x plus 3. 2 times 3 is 6, so we'll go ahead and multiply that together first. And then here 1 times 2 is 2, and then we'll go ahead and distribute. So now we'll have 6x minus 12 is equal to 5x minus 10 plus 2x plus 6. Combine like terms on the right-hand side before solving. So 5x plus 2x is 7x. Negative 10 and positive 6 is negative 4. And then over here we'll have 6x minus 12. And now we can go ahead and solve. Personally, I would subtract 6x from both sides first. That'll leave us with a negative 12 over here. And an x minus 4 over here. And then we'll add 4 to both sides over here. That leaves us with x is equal to -8. Check to make sure that doesn't conflict with either of our domain restrictions here. X cannot be -3 or 2, but x equals 8 is good, so this is our solution. Alrighty. So now let's go to number 5, sorry. So first we'll start by our domain restrictions. So if we set x plus 2 equal to 0, we'll get x cannot be -2, and x minus 2 equal to 0, we'll get x cannot be 2. For our LCD, we see they have an x minus 2 in common and an x plus 2 in common. So we need both of those in our LCD. So we're going to multiply everything by x plus 2, x minus 2. Cancel the x plus 2 here, cancel the x minus 2 here, and cancel both here. And then we'll write down what we have left. So for this first fraction, we'll have 3 times x minus 2 left. For the next fraction, we'll have 2 times x plus 2 left. And over here, we just have an 8. So then we'll go ahead and distribute. Combine like terms on this side for before solving. So 3x plus 2x is 5x. -6 and +4 will combine to be -2. We'll add 2 here to both sides. That'll leave us with 5x equals 10. Divide by 5. And we get x equals 2. Now let's go back up to check our domain restrictions here. And unfortunately it said that x cannot be 2. So this cannot be a solution. And since that's the only one, then there is no solution. All right, let's take a look at number 6. Before we do anything, we should see this x squared minus 25 and realize that this is a difference of perfect squares. So it'll factor into x plus x minus. And then the square root of 25 is 5. 5 squared is 25, so this will be 5 and 5. Because remember, 5 times 5 needs to make 25. So that will factor into that. Now we can use our domain restrictions. So if we put x plus 5 equal to 0, we'll get x cannot be -5. And then x minus 5 equal to 0, we'll get x cannot be 5. And then for our LCD, we see an x plus 5 in 2 of the denominators and an x minus 5 in 2 of the denominators. So that will be our LCD. So we'll multiply everything over here by x plus 5, x minus 5. Cancel out our denominators. Everything cancels over here with our LCD. Over to the first fraction, we'll have a 4 left and an x minus 5 left. Second fraction, we'll have a 2 and an x plus 5 left. And then over here, we just have 32. So then we'll distribute. Combine our like terms. On the left side, we have 4x plus 2x, that is 6x. And then -20 and +10 will combine to be -10. I would add 10 to both sides next to get 6x equals 40. Oops, sorry. No, this is a 32. So we should have 42. Divide by 6, and we get x equals 7. Check to see if that conflicts with our domain restrictions. It is good because x cannot be 5 and -5. So that is a solution here. Okay, so now for number 7, we'll start by factoring this trinomial here. So if we want to factor this, we're going to be looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to get -8 and add together to get -2. So two numbers that multiply together to get -8 and add together to get are 4 and 2, and we want to add them together to get -2. So it'll be a -4 and a +2. So this guy here will factor into x minus 4, x plus 2. So we can do our domain restrictions first. Set x minus 4 equal to 0, and you get x cannot equal 4. Set x plus 2 equal to 0, and you can get x cannot equal -2. For our LCD, we see an x minus 4 in 2 of the denominators and an x plus 2 in 2 of the denominators, so that's our LCD. So we'll multiply everything here by x minus 4 and x plus 2. Cancel out our denominators. Oops, sorry, plus 2. All of these became -2's. And everything cancels with this last one. So for the first one, we'll have 1 times x plus 2 left. Subtraction. 5 times x minus 4 left. And just a 6 on this side. So then we'll have x plus 2 when we distribute minus 5x plus 20, because this, make sure you use this as a -5 times -4. Take the negative with it. Combine like terms on this side, we'll have x plus -5x will be -4x. 2 plus 20 will be 22. And then subtract 22 from both sides, and we get -4x equals -16. Divide by -4, and we get x equals 4. Check that with our domain restrictions, and we have a problem. X cannot be 4, so this is not a solution, and since that's our only solution, then there is no solution. All right. So for number 8 now, first thing we need to do is factor this guy here. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to get -6 and add together to get 1, because there's a little 1 there. 3 and 2 multiply together to get 6. Make one of those negative and you'll get a -6, but we want a +1. So we'll make the 2 negative when we add them together. So this guy down here will factor into x minus 2, x plus 3. So now we can do our domain restrictions. We look at the denominator, set x plus 3 equal to 0, and you'll get x cannot be -3. Set x minus 2 equal to 0, and you'll get x cannot be 2. And for our LCD, we see an x plus 3 in 2 denominators and an x minus 2 in 2 denominators. So that will be our LCD. So we'll multiply everything by x plus 3 times x minus 2. Cancel out our denominators. Everything cancels on the right side. So over here we'll be left with a 6 times x minus 2. Here we'll be left with a 5 and an x plus 3. And over here just a -20. Go ahead and distribute. So we'll get 6x minus 12. Don't forget to take your negative with the 5. And you'll have -5x minus 15 equals -20. Combine our like terms on the left-hand side. 6x and minus 5x will be 1x. -12 and -15 will make -27. Add 27 to both sides, and we'll get x equals 7. Check our domain restrictions. Neither of those conflict, so this is indeed our solution. That is all.